So this is something I actually wrote about not too long ago. I believe it was sometime last year or a few months ago. But a lot of people look at the Final Fight series from back in the day and they have fond memories of it. It was simple, it was fun, it was challenging, and the replay values were high. But the thing is, the landscape of gaming had changed over time during the 90s, 2000s, and the teens decade. And the Final Fight series has been relevant since the early to mid 90s. The last Final Fight game that we got, or at least the last main installment that we got, was Final Fight Streetwise, which came out back in the mid 2000s, and that was a 3D fighting game, and it had a more realistic feeling to it, opposed to being a simple, basic, brawler type of video game, and honestly, it was something that looked somewhat impressive at the time. But the thing is, a lot of people weren't really interested in it. The game itself, bombed in terms of ratings and reviews, and honestly, it came out during a time period where the Grand Theft Auto series was starting to become hot and popular and all that stuff, and people were starting to get into like first person shooters and everything during the 2000s. So, um, like after the Final Fight game from the mid 2000s, it seemed like the series kind of just like fizzled out in terms of popularity, and nobody was really thinking about it anymore. But the reason why some people feel like Capcom should reboot the Final Fight series is because you look at Streets of Rage. You know, we got Streets of Rage 4 back in 2020, and that game ended up exceeding a lot of people's expectations in terms of sales, because I think it did like 1 or 2 million copies in terms of sales, and it went viral once the game was announced. It actually went viral on Twitter, and the reason why it went viral is because the game had a cult following. A lot of people loved the soundtrack. They thought the characters were cool and all that other stuff. And after we got Streets of Rage 4, about 2 years later, we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, which is like a spiritual successor of Turtles in Time from '91. So I feel like 2D beat 'em up games could still be an attraction if done right. And some people feel like, Capcom um, should probably consider, rebooting Final Fight or creating a brand new, 2D installment, maybe like Final Fight 4 or something like that. That would be cool. But at the same time, again, the landscape of gaming has changed a lot. And the stuff that people are into nowadays includes like, Grand Theft Auto. We're supposed to be getting a new installment next year, Grand Theft Auto 6. People are into, um, they're into like anti-heroes and street thugs and stuff that they can relate to, you know what I mean? While like, Final Fight for the most part, um, you have like a mayor and I guess his associates, fighting crime and beating up criminals and all that stuff. That's something I don't think people would be too interested in this day and age. But at the same time, I mean, um, Streets of Rage 4 was kind of the same thing, but I feel like it was done right to a point where it appealed to the masses. And I do feel that nostalgia was a big part of the reason why Streets of Rage 4 did so good on a commercial level. But yeah, I don't know if Capcom can have the same kind of success with potential Final Fight 4 game that Streets of Rage 4 had, because Streets of Rage, I hate to say it, but Streets of Rage is slightly more popular than Final Fight, because you look at the Final Fight series, the most popular installment was the first game. In terms of gameplay, the third Final Fight game from, I want to say, '95 was probably the best. And Final Fight 2 is basically just meh, whatever. You look at the Streets of Rage game, Streets of Rage 2 is the best. 3 was just, no one really cared too much about it. The soundtrack was not that great. Final Fight 1 was way too basic, but at the same time, it was pretty much a good game to precede, Final Fight 2, and then Final Fight 4 was like Final Fight 2 taken to another level. So I feel like with Capcom, if they want to have any type of success with rebooting the Final Fight series, they would have to take all of the good qualities of the first 3 games, like the graphics, the soundtracks, the gameplay mechanics, and basically, like, include it in, Final Fight 4 and just dial it up a notch. And, I do feel that's something that's doable. I don't think it's something Capcom would be heavily invested in because they have more popular and successful franchises like Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, Street Fighter. You name it. They have more popular franchises. I don't think Final Fight has ever been a series that has drawn a ton of money for Capcom, or at least it hasn't been the case for the past 30 years or so. But but yeah, I mean, a lot of people, including myself, would be interested in seeing Capcom reboot, the Final Fight series. But in reality, I don't think that's something that's going to happen.